You ready, Russell?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. So, I'd like to start with an apology. What you're about to hear contains the following: terrible pronunciation, sweeping generalisations, and some left-field linguistic theory. But if you take pleasure in the discomfort of others, in this case me, then you might be familiar with Schadenfreude, an example of the theme of my presentation. I'd like to talk to you about untranslatable words, everyday inclusions in conversations around the world, for which we have no direct equivalents. Although I have to say, in my research, I'm not sure how many of these are actually that commonly used. We'll find out. My interest in this topic was sparked by a book I was given by the title Lost in Translation. It seeks to aid understanding of the true meaning of these untranslatable words through illustration, and having read it, I found myself in a Google spiral, finding more and more of these lexical curiosities. I learned in Malay they use the word pisang zapra to represent the roughly 2-minute time it takes to eat a banana. In Japan, this, dappled light through trees, is called komorebi. And when you have a mark left on your skin by socks or a tight watch, the Tulu speaking of southwest India call it karelu, I think. I also came across new languages. The Filipino language Tagalog uses the word kilig to mean butterflies in the stomach, which I've so got right now. And Pascuense, spoken in Polynesia, uses the word tingo to mean to gradually steal all the possessions of a neighbour by borrowing them and not giving them back. While the French have a committee to invent new words, the Germans are well known for simply stacking existing words to create new ones. So kabelsalat is the tangle of wires behind a desk, a salad of cables. Kummerspeck refers to the weight we gain when we eat our feelings, literally translated as grief bacon. And the fear of diminishing opportunities as one ages is known as torseless panic. That's door closing panic. I noticed how these words give you an instant glimpse into the way of life of that nature. Take Warmduscher, another German word, someone who would never take a hot shower or an icy cold shower and is therefore a bit of a wimp. Or Drachenfutter, that's dragon fodder, which is a gift brought by a husband to a wife to make up for bad behaviour. Meanwhile, in Scandinavia, their adventurous ways of their ancestors are reflected in their language. The Swedes call the road-like reflection of the moon in the water mangata, and call the restless beat of a traveller's heart before a journey resfaber. And when they aren't waking up early to hear the first bird singing, that's Gurkata, they are doing fika, gathering together to talk, drinking coffee and eating pastries, for which they need tretar. Tar alone means cup of coffee, patar is the second cup, or refill. The third cup, therefore tretar, is the three-fill. Speaking of food and culture, the Italians use the word culaccino as a name for the mark left on the table by a moist glass, and the word abbioccio to describe that sleepy feeling after a big meal. Meanwhile, Spaniards have sobremesa after lunch, which is conversation around the table. See what I mean about a way of glimpse into the way of life? The Yiddish have the word schlemazel, describing someone who never seems to have any good luck, and the word trepwörter for that witty comeback you think of only when you walk away from a conversation, literally staircase words. And someone has brought a smile to my face. In Japan, you might see a bakushan. That's a beautiful woman, but only when looked at from behind. Or the Czech word protzvonit, which is when you call a mobile phone and only allow it to ring once in the hope that the other person will call back and take on the cost of the call. In Scotland, you have a tartle, which my predecessor experienced, the moment of hesitation when you forget someone's name. And the typically understated Arabic speakers of the world have ya aburne, meaning you bury me, a morbid declaration of hope that you will die before someone else, as living without them would just be too difficult. But why do these words exist? Why do we waste all our syllables explaining these concepts when other languages do it so succinctly? Well, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis states that perhaps one's language determines what one is capable of thinking. But that's ridiculous when previous civilizations can sum up an entire way of life with simple markings on a wall. So the lexical field theory states that reality is a piece of land, and words are the net that we cast over it. And the net is old and worn, and some of the holes are bigger than others. And in other places the net is bunched up so the holes revealing the ground are smaller. Thus words represent different scales of reality, of our shared reality. As evidence, let's look at homesickness. We all understand the feeling, but in Wales you would experience hiraeth, a homesickness for somewhere you cannot return to, the nostalgia and the grief for lost places of your past. Whereas in France they suffer dépaysement, homesickness brought on only by being in a foreign country. And in Germany they have Fernweh, homesickness for somewhere you've never even been to, wanderlust, if you will. So what this teaches us is that no word really is untranslatable, but then no word is truly translatable either. And I'll leave you with my favourite, the Hawaiian word ekihi, which is when you've been given directions and you walk off confident you know where you're going and promptly forget them. I hope none of you go a kiki on the way home.